Greetings and welcome to this episode of the RR Show. I am Vince, your host, and I'm going to count up my stories here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. All in all, we've got a grab bag episode coming up later in this episode. We've got something from r/Tales from Tech Support. It's going to be My Computer is Locked Up. And, this could be good. I always love these. It is the subreddit Boomers Being Fools. The story is filing a restraining order against a crazy cat lady boomer, but she's the real victim. So this is going to be a good boomer freakout. So let's jump into it. A mix of stories today on the RR Show. Starting things off with r/GlitchInTheMatrix, posted by user Sunearth, and it is titled Rip in the Timeline. This happened a while back in 2021. I actually posted a comment about it some time back. I had a white Subaru WRX between 2018 and 2020. I was in my late teen years and working a decently paying job. I had fun with this car and was proud of it. It wasn't fast, but it was fun and the miles per gallon was great. I only drove it to the state north and northeast of me. In 2020, I ended up selling it to a friend that worked at a dealer because I didn't want a payment anymore. Obviously, I received a proof of sale and removed my plates. In 2021, I got a letter in the mail from the toll company representing a highway in a state I never drove any of my cars on ever. There was a bill from a couple of days prior and pictures of the front of 1/4 of the car. The license plate, hood, and some of the windshield were visible. It was my license plate and my white WRX, no question. Obviously, I'm freaked out. I check a shelf in my house and both plates are sitting there, dusty and untouched. Now, I'm even more freaked out. I tried calling the company and every time it goes either to static or cuts out entirely. I Google the toll company and make sure it's the same number. It is. Eventually, I resorted to emails. I sent them the dated documents from when the car was sold and pictures of the plates and tried to show them, hey, it isn't me actually. I sent a couple later to follow up, but never heard anything. A few weeks go by and I'm still thinking about it every now and then, but it's mostly gone by. Then, I get a call. It's the toll company. They tell me the bill has been paid in full by someone with a different number than the one associated with the license plate. I tell them the deal and ask if they received my emails. They did not. I explain the situation. They're freaked out. I believe I resent them the emails and they ended up going through. We did get to speak again and they were even more spooked. I tried to get some info on the person that called in, and since they thought it was me and now I'm asking for the info, they couldn't share a single thing, citing some confidentiality reasons. Nothing ever came of it. I was never able to figure it out. My dad was a witness to this, as I still lived with him when I purchased the car, so everything went to his place. Spooky stuff. I feel like I've had a handful of weird glitches I can't explain. Posted by user Help Darren under the subreddit r/Petty Revenge. If you really want that parking spot, you should just ask. I don't have a drive. I keep the car in the public car park next to my flat. It's a 2 minutes walk. It has CCTV that's actually being used. Needed a footage for insurance purposes. Council was more than happy to look through 3 days of stuff, and the permit is not that expensive. A few weeks after we moved here, I found my spot. Well, technically, it wasn't mine. We don't have delegated spaces. But I used that spot for over a year, and no one had any problems with that. It wasn't under any trees. It was next to a fence on one side, perpendicular to any other spots, so no one parked next to me on the other side. And it was easy to turn around. This is the only long stay car park in the entire town center. So it's always fully packed between around 9 a.m. till 5 to 6 p.m. Everyone works or shops in the town uses this one. The spot I call mine was perfect in a sense that it was relatively far from any of the other spots, except the other two behind it. And I used to do night shifts, so I left the car there from roughly 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this spot kept my car scratch and dent free for over a year. All in all, it was perfect for me. A year or so later, after I found my spot, someone new moved into the flats and wanted my spot. First, they started leaving their car there, even though they must have seen mine there pretty much every day. I didn't mind it if it was available. I parked on another spot, but if it was empty, as I've gotten home in the morning, I've used it as much as I could. When leaving their car there every now and then and it didn't work, they pulled their wheelie bins next to my car. It was strange, but I just put the bins back next to a wall. Next day, the bins were there again and I put them back again. Third day, bins there again. So I wrote them a polite letter and dropped the letter into their letterbox. The flat number was on top of the bins. And I asked them not to put their bins next to my car because if it's gonna be windy and the bins scratch my car, they might be liable for damages. Fourth day, the bins were there again. Wrote another letter, pointed out their flat number is on top of the bins, so it's not a rocket science to figure out who they belong to, and asked them again not to put their bins next to my car. I also pointed out the CCTV in the middle of the car park that is actually functional, and I can ask the council to find out who and when puts their bins next to my car, and they might be liable for criminal damages, and since they blocked my car into a spot in a public park, they might also be liable for causing an obstruction to the public highway, which again is a criminal offense. Fifth day, bins there again. At this point, I was sure they didn't either speak the language like I did, or they don't understand my letters, or they generally just don't care. So I was moving their bins next to the wall every day. Until bin collection day. It was 4 black wheelie bins for 2 flats. As I got home in the morning, I lined them up next to the fence and then very, very, very slowly parked next to them, so close that my finger wouldn't fit between my car and their bins. And since I've got to the car park at 6:30 a.m. and the bin lorry usually comes around 7 a.m., I popped into a Greg's, bought a coffee, and sat in my car and waited for the collectors. When they arrived, they looked very confused and asked me why I blocked the bins in. So I quickly explained the whole story. They told me that the rule is if they can't reach a bin, they won't come back to empty it. And since my car is unfortunately blocking all 4 of those bins, they can't do anything. They gave me 4 tags that says since they weren't able to reach the bins, to put them on once I'm done having fun, and they'll come back in 2 weeks to empty it. So that's what I've done. Once the bin lorry left, I put the tags on the bins and went home to sleep. The bins were there for the rest of the day until I left at 9 p.m., but miraculously weren't there the next morning I got home. For the next 2 weeks, they tried to fill them as much as possible, but they've had to resort to bin bags, which the bin lorry did not collect the next time they came around. Just left a note on the bins that they can only collect what's in the bins, but as an extra, they put all the bags in the wheelies. It took them a whole month to work down their rubbish because the bins were always full. But I never had to move them again. This story clocking in from r/tales from tech support, user RayEd29. My computer is locked up. Not my story, but my roommates from many, many years ago. You know, back when DOS was a thing, that many years ago. He worked for a company that built software to run scales. Not of the bathroom variety, but those big monsters that used to weigh dump trucks full of rocks or garbage and trucks full of, garbage. Customer calls in saying his computer is locked up. It won't do anything. Okay, well, let's try a few things to see if we can shake it loose. Cue montage scene with appropriate music playing over someone on the phone getting increasingly frustrated. After 2.5 hours of non-productive frustration, he finally breaks down and says, "Read me everything on your screen." Start at the top left corner and tell me every letter, number, and symbol you see until you've given me every last character here. Customer then reads off a litany of letters and numbers and symbols and finishes off with, and then there's that flashy thing. TS, tech support. TS. Excuse me, what? That flashy thing, it's just a solid box flashing on and off. You mean the cursor. If that's what you call it. Tech support with blood dripping out of his ear. Hit the enter key. Brain dead customer. Hey, that worked. Thanks. And the final story on this episode, as I teased at the top of the show, is r/boomers being fools. That is the subreddit posted by user Starbuck was a Cylon. And here's the title. Filing a restraining order against a crazy cat lady boomer. But she's the real victim. So a year ago, my sister, who has autism and other cognitive and physical disabilities, was having trouble adjusting to her move from my city, from my parents' house. They're not able to care for her anymore, and wanted a cat for emotional support. She found a posting for a cat that needed rehoming as it was attacking the other. As it turns out, many other cats it was attacking in that home. I went with my sister to pick up the cat and met her owner. Let's call her Karen. Firstly, Karen's house smelled so badly of cigarettes and cat feces that I had to go outside a few times during the visit to keep myself from retching. Karen was originally going to drop the cat off at my sister's in a couple of days, but I offered to take her now and, hey, save the trip. She agreed, no hesitation, and she got the cat's things. 2 days later, Karen went to my sister's place to get the cat carrier and invited herself back for the next week. But the day after that first visit, she decided she wanted the cat back because the cat had been hiding in a closet and my sister's apartment was too small. My sister got upset because she was already attached to the new cat. The very next day, Karen changed her mind and decided my sister was a good fit after all. But then she started blowing up my sister's phone with texts and calls, wanting constant updates on the cat. And she'd get mad if my sister didn't respond in 2 hours, even though Karen knows my sister works. My sister warned her that she was going to block her, and she eventually did. So Karen decided to come to my sister's job and hang out for 4 hours trying to talk to her. My sister hid in the back. Then Karen called the cops on my sister asking for the cat back and tried to get them to do a welfare check on the cat, which is not a thing, so the police did not do it. My sister tells me all this the next day, so I call the police to get them to tell Karen to leave my sister alone. Trying to be nice, stupidly, to Karen, I reached out to her and told her that I'd send her pics once in a while if she left my sister alone, because her behavior was giving my sister panic attacks and hives. She kept crying about how the cat was her child and that she was its mother, and she was heartbroken. Things were fine for a couple of weeks, but then, when I didn't respond fast enough, Karen got her sister to reach out to mine. So then I had to tell the sister to stop, which she did. She thought Karen was being crazy too, and blocked Karen. Quick version of the next year. Karen persisted. She found my sister and I on different social media. We'd block her, she'd find another one. In October, she somehow found a former employer of mine and tried to convince them to put me back in touch with her for an emergency. The last straw was when she came into my sister's job again this last week after we had the police tell her 3 times to leave us alone. She caught my sister and cried and begged for photos. My sister was freaked out, showed her 2 pics to get the lady to leave. Karen then hugged her despite my sister twice telling her not to. She doesn't like being touched. I was livid. I unblocked Karen and called her. I'm not proud, but I get super defensive when it comes to my sister. So I straight up yelled at her and told her that she was effing crazy and to leave my sister the F alone, and we're getting a restraining order. Then I calmed down and promised to hear her out. In true boomer fashion, she explained how she was the real victim and said my sister blocked her out of nowhere after promising she could see the cat. I said, "You forgot something there. What did you do before my sister blocked you?" Karen said, "Nothing." And I said to her, "So you didn't call the cops on her and blow up her phone and ask for the cat back and show up at her work?" And she said, "No." I told her, "I have the text and the police report." So she did as any good boomer would. She ignored that, and instead she started sobbing about all her unrelated problems. I told her, "This restraining order is happening, so you won't get any more updates on this cat. What are you gonna do to help yourself to move past this?" At which point she told me I wasn't the authority of her. Cut to my sister's caseworker sending me Facebook posts this woman made where she names my sister and I and tells her boomer story of how we tricked her into giving up her cat and then refused to give her more updates, of course, failing to mention why we really did do that. She explains how cruel and heartless we are and asks that people find out what happened to her cat, again after naming us. And then all her little Facebook boomer friends agree that we're cruel, heartless, and poor Karen. So I guess the moral of the story is never adopt a cat from a crazy cat lady boomer. It won't end well. Edit. Restraining order is approved. So happy. Thank you all for your support. So thanks for being with us. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, please follow or subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra nice, you might as well leave a 5-star review. But for more, visit the website, rrshow.com. That is rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. Thank you to my producer, Kevin, and we'll see you next time here on The RR Show.